one of the matches, of course, that Brisbane is hosting. Last week, the Americans played here and beat the Japanese, winning quite closely, 21-18. And there'll be another match later in the week where Tonga, the team that was so convincing when they played here in New Zealand, will take on Ireland. And then one of the quarter-final matches will be held in Brisbane, and that's likely to feature Wales and England. Large crowd too gathered at Ballymore in Brisbane, and getting a good view now of those ground conditions, which look absolutely ideal. The big stand there, and well, look, there's the Australian mascot about to help, I'm sure, the Australian team in a time of need. I don't think they'll be in need today, because they should run out convincing winners in this match over the United States team. And so we take you now to Ballymore, Brisbane, to our man there, Peter Longman.
Welcome to Ballymore, a magnificent day in Brisbane. It's a fine sunny day and the temperature a very pleasant 20 degrees. Well, both sides first round winners today, but both sides have made a number of changes to their teams. The USA have made 8 changes and Australia 6 changes to their side. A lot of interest today in the recast Australian forward pack. Tyneman back to number 8, Miller and Cody on the sides, Coker one of the locks, and Lickclap into the front row. The United States hoping to keep Australia to a respectable score, but the conditions seem ideal for the Australian team to rack up a big score.
And so this is the American team, which remains pretty much the same as we saw in recent weeks. And Graham Thorne, any thoughts while you're here about this team that has been counted?
No, it's the best one that Mays, the coach, has put up. As you say, they're getting on a bit in age, over the age of 30, the big kicking fullback. Australia have made a lot of changes to their teams, but mostly through injury, changing their back row round and their middle row. Brian Smith comes in at halfback, and I think that if he plays like he did in New Zealand last year, he'll run a bit on the blind, which might make it a bit more difficult for Australia to run up these points. Andrew Slack, he's almost at the end of his test career, but it's a very good Australian side, regardless of how many changes Alan Jones has made.
Let's go now to Ballymore in Brisbane, to our commentator, Peter Longman.
Have entered the quarterfinals, very much against the expectations of anybody. Okay. Who would you like to be credited with working for? Who would you like to be credited?
That's the side of Ballymore, a magnificent afternoon. And here comes the American side out by their captain, Fred Paoli, the front rower. Paoli playing his 7th test today for the American Eagles. No doubt a few nerves in the Eagles team. Big task for them today. Out into the Ballymore turf they come. Victorious here last Sunday against Japan, so would be used to the ground. Here's the Australian team, Michael Lynagh, Jeff Miller there, Bill Campbell, Steve Tynan, big game for him today at number 8. David Cody, Ryan Smith playing his 2nd test, Andrew Leeds, Mike Burke, and there's David Campese. As the two teams now line up for the playing of the respective national anthems. Very good crowd here today. It's built up over the last half hour or so. To stand by now for national anthems. plenty of American support in this crowd. So the stage is set now for this second round World Cup match. So Australia is running against the breeze in this first half. Ray Nelson there, the Eagles fullback, kicked the Americans to victory last Sunday against Japan. Key player in the American lineup today. There's Bill Shiflett, played very well last Sunday against Japan, a key player in the line-out against Coker and Campbell. Referee is Brian Anderson from Scotland as Nelson kicks off. Cody takes it, outside his forward line. Smith, back to LYNAGH. Gary Hine is there. Almost straight up that kick going. Tyneman goes up, can't get it though. Good work from the American forwards there, didn't give an inch, and they get the put in for the next scrum.
Well, Peter, we saw last week against Japan, America were content to throw the ball to the 5'8" and to hoist the ball in behind the Japanese backline. I think they've got to play a containment game today, and that's exactly what they'll do.
Horton puts it high. Knocked away from Burke, and a penalty goes to Australia. Smith takes the tap. That's Coker setting up play. Slack playing at 5'8" there. What a great kick. Gary Hine is there. Ray Nelson. And off the side of the boot, maybe a few nerves for the fullback early on this match.
Well, already Australia nominating their hand, showing their hand as to what they intend doing here today. Normally, Michael LYNAGH would have kicked that penalty to the line, and they just simply took the tap, moved the ball, and tried to work pressure onto the Americans.
Miller wins well at the back. Gets a bit of work for his effort as well from the American forwards. And hands used by the Americans, so a penalty to Australia, about 2 metres out from the quarter line. And this should be a fairly simple 3 points for Michael LYNAGH. Bill Shiflett, the played out injured.
Well, number 7 that time, Jeff Miller, one of the heroes of the Bledisloe Cup victory over New Zealand. They're getting a little bit of a touch-up on the ground, but Miller is there always first, and he's used to that sort of treatment, and it will take plenty of it.
Shiflett still receiving attention. Looks like getting a knock to the hand. He's taping the fingers together. Beautiful day for football, and we should see plenty of movement through the Australian backs. And as Chris said, taking that tap early on shows the Australians' intentions to try and move this ball about.
Well, Alan Jones has said, Peter, one of the poor phases of Australia's rugby, particularly against England, was their inability to get ball from third and fourth phase rugby. I think that's what they'll be trying to do today. Campese is hungry for a few tries. He needs to see the ball a lot to get his form up to the standard that will be needed later on, and today's the day that I'm sure the rest of the team are going to help him do it.
Michael LYNAGH, prolific point scorer for Australia. It's only his 17th test, but he's already scored 211 points. A magnificent effort. LYNAGH with the ball placed. 8 metres in from touch. 24 metres out. LYNAGH hits it well. It's through. And Australia takes an early lead. They lead by 3 points to nil after 3 minutes of play in the first half.
Michael LYNAGH having some difficulty in that first game against England with his kicking, but not so there. And Ron Mays, the American coach, I'm sure would be disappointed to see LYNAGH get straight onto his kicking game.
I think some of the players getting used to the new balls. Practicing hard during the week. Nelson. Looks too big, is it? No, just right to Cody. Smith. Stumbles. That's all he could do. Slipping on the turf. And in the end, taking the ball into touch.
Good pressure from the Americans, and this will be our first opportunity to see what sort of ploys they'll use in the line-out. Two good jumpers in Campbell and in Coker.
Well knocked back by Swords, but not in straight. Smith waits. LYNAGH. Big kick, Nelson. Keeps in play, puts the hand out. That was bad luck for the fullback. He did that very well indeed.
He played well here against Japan, Peter. It was a commanding performance from Nelson. He was ready for the tough stuff in defence and carried the ball into the line very well. Very useful footballer.
Free kick going to Australia. Let's see what happens here. LYNAGH. There's David Campese looking for a record today. Scored 22 tries in test matches so far. It's 2 more to equal the world record. LYNAGH puts it up high. Australia's ball. Chance here for Australia. LYNAGH. Jinks. Looks round. There's Smith. Crunch though, and a good tackle by Paoli in the centre of that ruck. Papworth straight through his hands. Campese. Bit of space out here. Kicks ahead. Good play. Gary Hines there. Takes it well. Into touch. Refined piece of play there from David Campese. Working the ball round this side. Saw the gap and almost through.
Great balance by Campese that time. He worked the ball up the line.
Lawton to throw in. Right on the Americans' goal line. Knocked down by America. Loose ball though. Miller's through there quickly. And you'll see Jeff Miller wherever the ball is. Right through today's game. Certainly on mark there, but the Americans forcing it. Smith. Loves working the short side. Here's the drive from the Australian forwards. Tyneman controlling play superbly at the back. And offside is Halu. Nelson that was, in fact, right underneath the post.
In fact, it is a penalty try, Peter, for collapsing the scrum. Referee Anderson has given a penalty try to Australia right underneath the sticks for the American scrum folding in on their own line. Just watch it. A great secondary shove here by Australia. They sucked the Americans into it. They had the drive on, and referee Anderson said purposely collapsed by America, and a penalty try to open the game underneath the post. Great drive here by Australia. Just watch. They put this shove on when America thought that they had the Australians contained. They kept driving, and here you'll see them fold in under. I don't know whether that's, you know, I could probably agree with the Americans. They were crushed rather than folding in themselves, but still a penalty try under the post.
It didn't look intentional. That's why I first thought it must have been a penalty out wide, because there was simply the Australian power of the front row caving the American front row in.
I feel so too, because, Peter, the first one that would cave would be the American tight head.
LYNAGH straight between the posts, and so Australia now leads by 9 points to nil after 7 minutes of play. But this powerful all-Queensland front row in the Australian team really showing its wares there. They caused the New South Wales front row in the game at Ballymore here a couple of weeks ago all sorts of problems. It looks like they're doing the same again today with the American front row. Nelson. Campese. Casual. A la Campese. Dots it down. The best of kick straight goes down to Higgins. Nelson runs away from the support. Brian Smith calls for it. Andrew Leeds takes it though. Is caught by Nelson. A good ball and all tackle. Smith running it. Campese, room here. Out it goes to LYNAGH. Back to Smith. Juggling it. Good tackle there from Swartz coming across in cover. Smith's injured in back play. Now he gets up. Smith to LYNAGH. Out to Burke. There's Leeds in from fullback. Back to Burke. Handling well. Gets round one. The American defence, so holding at the moment. Slack picks up the loose ball. On the halfway line. Penalty goes to Australia.
Well, great defence that time by the United States. Australia running the ball, getting free rein, but they're knocking them over every time.
Brian Smith injured after that tackle by Swartz. It was a big hit. And a fine covering tackle. Almost capacity crowd in the grandstand at Ballymore. The left knee of Smith. Well, the Americans certainly running the ball on all occasions, but Chris, well, the Australians running the ball on all occasions, the American defence holding.
Oh, look, Peter, against Japan, their close-in defence was very good. They will run into a little bit of trouble with Australia when they get this ball out wide, though. That's the area that I feel that they're most at risk in, and I think we'll see that develop as the game goes on.
Michael Lyon looking for touch on the far side. Right footer. Taking play into the American quarter. And fine chance here for Australia is Alan Jones. There's a few words of advice, one of the reserves. Bit of pressure and feeling it. Pat Johnson to throw in. Good work from the Americans. That's HORTON and finding touch. It's a very much more composed American side today. Looks like that win against Japan gave them that bit of extra confidence. Smith to LYNAGH. Papworth jinking, almost through. Back to Miller, backing up well. Smith out to Tommy Lawton, trying to barrel his way through. Smith to LYNAGH. Kicking through for Campese. Gary Hines back there. The bounce is all important here. Hine allows the ball to go over the dead touch in goal. And so back to the quarter line.
Good thinking by Michael Lynagh. The American backs up very flat. Worked the ball high, but just got away from you a little bit off the boot.
Another American player injured. I think it's the halfback, Dave DICKSON. It is DICKSON from North Carolina. He's only played in one test. It's his second test match. Looks like injury to his foot. Australia leading by 9 points to 0 after 12 minutes of play. Ron Mays, the American coach, Ned Burlingham, the American captain, just in front of him, looking a little concerned. They really felt that they could hold Australia to a respectable score before this game started. Of course, they play England in their final match in this pool and believe they've got a chance of making the semi-finals. They've rested a number of their more experienced players for today's game. They'll bring out the big guns in the match against England, hoping to win that and grab a spot in the semi-finals, well, the quarter-finals. So still Dave Dickson receiving attention and some American supporters. A couple of Hawaiian shirts there. So Dave Horton now to restart. Time and knocks it back for Smith. Liner, Papworth leads in the line. Out to Burke. Now Burke's got some room here. Haleu across and cover. Good tackle by Haleu. And also Higgins. Penalty goes to Australia. But again, the American defence very good. Smith takes the tap. Liner, loose pass. Liner, almost through. Ball knocked forward by Australia there. Papworth has it. And again, the American defence holding strong.
See a very anxious Australian combination, Peter. They've obviously been told during the week that they've got to perform. They're feeling that pressure and they're creating a bit of pressure for themselves by trying to force the play a little bit at this time.
Good chip through by Horton. Leeds is there, though. And is caught in a solid tackle. Burke. Burke straight through. Up the centre goes Matt Burke. Looks for support. Finds slack. He can't pick it up. Back there is Shiflett. American ball. Horton. Looks for touch on the far side and finds it. But a couple of American players injured in that tackle on Leeds. Kevin Higgins and also Steve Finkel. Looks okay now, though.
Kevin Higgins had a sensational game here against Japan, a very powerful runner and tackler.
Good work again by Finkel there, tidying up the loose ball. Let's see who's got the ball, though. They've got it, the Eagles. Horton, again, just putting it high in front of his forwards. Tyneman goes up. Smith has it. Cody, back to Miller. Smith, there's Slack. Slack across to Liner. Line looking for the gap, out to Campese. Pass going forward, though. Campese stepping past Tyne, but the whistle had gone.
Americans doing a very good job here. They're knocking over the ball carrier every time, putting him to the ground, and it's really halting the Australians' flow at the moment.
A few with gridiron backgrounds, and some of the tackling is showing that they've learned how to effect some good head-on tackles. Horton. That's a good kick. Campese waits. Almost Hine gets his hands to it. Knocked down. But my word, Horton's certainly finding the mark. And putting the Australians under pressure.
Beautiful ball down the line that time by Dave Horton. It was a high ball on the sidelines right beside David Campese. And look at his opposite number. They go right up and contest the ball in the air above him. Didn't wait for Campese to receive it. Went up and contested the ball in the air. Good play.
Tony Ritnell, the player getting the magic sponge. 9-0 Australia leading. We've had 15 minutes of play in the first half. The penalty try scored by Australia. So full marks to the Americans so far. They've contested everything. A scrum inside the Australian quarter. Liner running it. Campese loose. Burke back to Campese. Chipping ahead. Well taken though by Higgins. Waiting for support to help him out though. Australians there in numbers. There goes Shiflett. Rushed by Coker. Good solid shoulder charge. You're right, Chris. Australia seem to be very aware that a number of their places are on the line this game, and they're playing like it, aren't they?
They are. They're hurrying things. They're trying to force the pace themselves instead of doing that in the 22 area that they would normally do, say, against the All Blacks. They're putting more pressure on themselves by having to create play, and I think they should relax. The game is only early yet.
Dave Dickson to feed. Held by Vizard at the back. Horton puts it up. Leads. Takes it well, then loses it though. Americans pouring through. Back it goes to LYNAGH. He decides to settle it down. And mightn't find touch. Yes, he does. Up towards halfway. That's better play from the Australians. I think Andrew Stack would have said, OK, let's play the game in the Americans' half.
There's the Australian camp there. And who'd imagine that an Australian side without Simon Poitevin, Steve Cutler and Enrique Rodriguez would be one that you would call extremely strong.
5 metres from halfway. Horton running it this time. Coming in well there is Hine. Strong run from the winger. Horton, Haleu, looks outside for Nelson, goes himself though. Wind again. Out goes Ridnell. Back inside to front rower House. Good play from the Americans, but knocked down there by Swartz. But that was good continuity from the Americans.
It's the Americans that are getting the third phase play at this stage, really playing above themselves. They're not going to play second fiddle to any so-called world champion side.
Smith waits the back. LYNAGH. That's a good kick from the 5/8. Over halfway, almost on his quarter line. And Australia trying to get back and play the game in the American territory.
3, 4, 2, 8.
Andrew Leach receiving a knock over his right eye.
Getting a couple of those beautiful balls from Horton, short and high. He's having to come forward and go up.
Penalty goes to the Eagles. Some obstruction there, use of an elbow in the line out. And so Dave Horton comes across. And a good kick from Horton on the quarter line. And Dave Horton showing he's got some magnificent kicking skills. Tommy Lawton. 23rd Test match for Australia. Penalty going to Australia though from that line out. I think you could say America's had the territorial advantage so far in this game.
Very much so.
Midway through this first half. LYNAGH. Another good kick from him. Certainly got his kicking confidence back. Penalties very much favouring Australia at this stage. Only one penalty goal kicked by them. Tyneman at the back. Wins off hands. Oh, loose pass off McIntyre. Again, hesitancy in the Australian team. The back line was lined out. Lawton was the only man on the short side. And obviously the call wasn't there.
You couldn't believe that, the call to the short side there. Beautiful ball, laid back.
Free kick. It's against halfback Dave Dickson. Ball not going in the middle of the tunnel. Now Australia here. Let's see what they do. Up and under, or maybe take the tap. Looks like it's going to be the hoist under the goalposts. That gives his forwards plenty of time to get through. Knocked down for Australia, but Campbell can't pick it up. Pat Johnson, the hooker there. Shiflett. Clear the ball, the Americans, they need to. And not a good kick that time from Horton. Good pressure from the Australians. Tyneman and Lawton through there. Also David Cody. And again, Bill Shiflett injured. He's been down 2 or 3 times so far in this game. Number 5, the second row, I think he'll be coming off now.
Well, I would imagine, Peter, had that been New Zealand, Australia were playing against, they'd have taken the tap from Smith to LYNAGH standing centre field for the shot for 3 points. And I believe that what they should be doing is to be playing a standard pattern, not trying to force the play as they're doing. America are competing extremely well at the moment.
There's number 19, Gary Lambert. He played last week against Japan, looked good too. Very strong second rower.
I think you're checked out by an official doctor, all right?
Checked by the doctor before he can leave.
It's like a hand injury, I think.
So a replacement about to come on. Won't be in time for the line out though. Up goes Campbell. Close to the American goal line. Smith goes himself, tries to burrow his way through his court. They're short of the goal line. So a scrum and more pressure for the Americans. There's the push from the Australians. Smith waits. Collapsing that time, but no penalty.
Mr. Anderson calling the scrum up. Good safe idea. Whenever that scrum goes to ground, when a knee goes down, the referee must call the scrum up.
Now look at the howl from the Australian forwards. Americans holding Smith to Campese. Up to Smith and scores in the corner. Fine combination between Smith and Campese. Campese miraculously getting the ball up off the ground. And so Australia leads now by 13 points to nil midway through this first half.
We'll put this one down to great domination by the Australian front row. Twice they pushed the Americans and then some heady work. I believe Campese could have got there himself unselfishly. Just looped the ball around and Smith was there to dot down in the corner. Beautiful wide angle here. Just look at Campese, could almost have lunged himself, but thought Smith was there, the call was there, and the try came.
So line of the conversion attempt right from the sideline. Line of 2 from 2 so far. Looks pretty good. It's there. Magnificent kick from Michael LYNAGH. He looks as though he's in superb touch this afternoon.
And Alan Jones you saw there with his arms held high. And what better test of a kicker and a ball than that one from the sideline.
15-0 Australia leads. And Ron Mays, the American coach, takes down further notes.
I'm sure he's looking at that scoreline, 15-0. They don't deserve to be 15-0 down. No way in the world do the Eagles deserve that.
Nelson. Campese. Big kick. Monster kick from Campese and finding touch. What a big kick. 10 metres into the Eagles' territory.
Playing a very heady role today, David Campese. We saw in that try, he didn't try and lunge for the line, and there he just, instead of running it back, he just worked it up the line. He's a very capable footballer.
It's Gary Hine, the player injured, the winger, left winger on this side. Well, Chris, as you say, Australia leading 15-0, but the score, not a real indication of the game so far.
No way in the world, Peter. Territorially, the Americans have had it. They've only broken down when the pressure's been put on by Australia very close to the line, and that's what's happened. Australia have really been unable to set up a decent attack from centre field. The Americans have tackled themselves into the ground. I don't think the Americans have been tested out in the line out enough. That's what's been happening. Australia trying to keep that ball in field, and I think they should be working the line into those attacking, scoring positions.
Well, Gary Hine still injured. We've seen 2 or 3 of the Americans suffering from foot injuries today. Gary Hine has had a gridiron background and maybe going back to gridiron in a year or two's time. Plays with the Berkeley Rugby Union Football Club. He's okay now. Number 2, Pat Johnson, throwing in. Not in straight, once again. It's Brian Smith scoring Australia's first try after the penalty try scored earlier. To LYNAGH. Papworth. Can I pass to Campese? Straightens now Campese out to Burke. Loose pass. Into touch. It's better play though from the Australian backs. But again, the American backline coming up quickly, making the Australians crab across field.
Good drift defence by the American backline. They cramped Campese into the corner.
2-7.
Knocked on there, the side of the line out, you could see.
Just this area, this facet of the game, letting the Americans down, not handling it well. The throws that they've had to the line out, a number going in crooked.
Smith to LYNAGH. Slack, back to Papworth. There's LYNAGH. Picked up by Leeds. Out to Campese. Loose pass, picked up by Smith. Coker. Coker busting his way through. Miller losing it forward. Taken there by Whitnell, but into touch. Troy Coker on his haunches, he's okay. Back into the line out. Coker, according to Australian coach Alan Jones, has been the form forward in Australia this year. HORTON. And he takes some of the pressure off the Eagles.
That's better work in the line out. Good throw, well caught, cleanly dispensed with.
American ball again. HORTON. Charged down by Smith. Burke picks it up well. 10 metres from halfway. And a penalty goes to the Eagles. Solid tackle there from Finkel coming in.
Penalised Matthew Burke for not releasing. Burke in a quandary, slid into the ball, picked it up and tried to stand up, but got squashed back to the turf.
HORTON makes no mistake. Finding touch on the far side. Australia leading by 15 points to 0. 15 minutes left in this first half, and Andrew leads that cut. Certainly spouting some blood.
Red badge of courage, Peter. Looks a lot worse than it probably is.
Well won there by Cody. Loose pass, Smith. Kick still in play. A messy piece of work there from the Australians. Australia seem to have the ball. It's a loose pass coming back to Smith. On halfway. Won the front well by Coker. Smith. Intercepted though. Taken away there by Finkel on the Australian quarter line. Out along the line it comes. A cannon pass to Nelson. Nelson goes himself, trying to jig his way through past Papworth. Gets the pass away well to HORTON. That's Vidic, only 10 metres out, and a penalty goes to the Eagles. Lying over the ball.
Great piece of a counter-attack from the Americans, and they receive a due big round of applause from the crowd here. Good flowing support rugby.
So a wonderful chance here for Ray Nelson to add first points for the Eagles. He kicked some very difficult goals last week against Japan. This taken back to the quarter line, about 18 metres in from touch. He should land this, and the Eagles certainly deserving some points before half-time. This crowd has certainly enjoyed the match so far. Plenty of movement. Ray Nelson was born in Glasgow in Scotland. Former British 400 metres junior champion. Hits it well, it's there. First points of the game for the Eagles. And Australia leads by 15 points to 3. 12 minutes left in this first half. Well, there's poor old Bill Shiflett. Must be a broken hand, I think, with
Hand or wrist, I think.
wrist,
Peter.
yes.
The wrist, the sling supporting the wrist.
LYNAGH. Higgins puts it back to HORTON. And again, drives play out of the American quarter. Smith to LYNAGH. Goes himself, gets past a couple. Free kick going to the Eagles, no, to Australia.
Playing the advantage. Mr. Anderson, I think, held down the jumper in the line-out.
Let's see if there's a move on here. Smith, LYNAGH. Drop it goal, is it? Not a good one. Went about 2 metres. I think there may have been an American foot in the way. Tom Lawton arrives and the American scrum, rather ruck goes backwards. LYNAGH, past one. Andrew Leeds juggling. Chipping through for Campese and a touch on the full. Well, things not quite coming off at the moment for Australia.
Michael LYNAGH playing taking a couple of strange options, whether it's because the close-in defence of the Americans is very flat and right upon him, that's probably the cause. But LYNAGH taking the option to step back inside and not getting the support.
Yes, looking at the American backline defence, they really are forcing the Australians across field. I think LYNAGH's thinking, well, I'll try another option, try and force the defence back, but it's just not working at the moment.
I just can't see that. Can't see that the step inside and then the Hail Mary pass out wide is of much use at all.
Looks like Dave HORTON is coming off the 5/8.
It's like another hand injury.
Or the halfback it is, in fact, Dave DICKSON. And that's number 18 going on as Mike Saunders, the replacement halfback.
Elbow or shoulder, something like that.
So bad luck for the Eagles. Two of their key players leaving before half-time. Smith to LYNAGH. Cut out pass to Slack. Terrible pass, but finds Tyneman, though. Back to Miller. Papworth. That's a good kick. Who's there first? Hine has forced the ball, but only just. Papworth flying through. The Australian backs pattern just seems to have been disturbed by the American defence. They really are taking some strange options at the moment. Dave HORTON. Vizard knocks it back in play. LYNAGH. Papworth. Round one. Papworth almost through. Miller's there again in support. He's been there all day. Papworth's injured. And a very willing American Eagles team at the moment. Mike Saunders, there he is, the replacement halfback, played against Japan last Sunday. Rugged sort of halfback in the Brian Smith mould, or Nick Farr-Jones mould. And Brett Papworth, the player injured, flat in his back, hitting a very solid tackle.
He
looks okay, I think.
Looks a little scratchy.
Maybe maybe hit round the jaw. Alec Evans not impressed, the assistant coach of the Australian team.
Enrique Rodriguez.
Strange seeing Rodriguez sitting up in the grandstand with an Australian blazer on.
I bet he'd love to be on the field too, you know.
Michael Cook being called across by Alan Jones. If Papworth isn't okay, with Papworth back in position. Smith feeds. Line to the left, Slack to the right. It's which way they go. Straight ahead at the moment.
Good control by the Australians.
LYNAGH. Out to Berg. Matt Berg trying to get round the defence. Papworth losing it forward. Papworth maybe just stuffed that knock. It's not quite right. They should have tried the right side, take it away from Papworth to give him a chance to clear the head. Saunders. Scrum screwed round. Saunders decides to clear. Makes about half a metre. One of Saunders' better options. Or better kicks, more to the point. It was the right option, but a poor kick.
Ready. Give me the call.
On the quarter line. 8 minutes left in the first half. Australia leading by 15 points to 3. Well won by Campbell. Americans pouring through, they're on the loose ball. Back it goes to Horton again. Drives play out of the quarter and finds touch 15 metres from halfway.
And still not a great deal of fluency in the Wallabies play. Not able to get that second, third and that delightful fourth phase ball at all.
Taken away well by Riddell that time. Saunders can't get to it. Now he tries to force his way through, but playing a knock-on. It's good American ball, but Saunders is pushing it forward. Still bright sunshine. American front row not down there. Andy McIntyre trying to bore in on the hooker, Pat Johnson. Smith to LYNAGH, Papworth. Room out here, Slack. Loose pass, picked up by Burke. He'd come out here to make the extra man. Looks like American ball again, is it? Certainly coming out the American side. But again, the American defence up so quickly, it's forcing the Australian backs to hurry their passing.
Just seems out wide. The Australian backs are overrunning that last pass, whether the ball is coming too slowly for them or whether they're a little bit too eager and overrunning.
Untidy American ball. Australian forwards doing well. Campese chipping ahead. Good bounce, is it for Campese? Takes it beautifully, Campese. Gets round one. The pass out to Slack. Slack racing away, and Slack will score. Fine Australian try. Campese, though, doing all the hard work. That was a piece of Campese magic. And Australia now lead by 19 points to 3. 5 minutes left in this first half.
And there you can see Andrew Slack feeling his ears. It wasn't quite a try right until the last minute. He got very well covered by the winger, the American winger, Gary Hine, and nearly whipped his head off, did Hine. But here's Campese, takes this ball, and look at him move at an angle. There is a position, there is a point here where he could have tried to score on his own, but such is the composure of Campese today. That was the time he could have gone inside. And watch this collar tackle by Gary Hine, round the top, over, slid up, pulled Slack into an awkward position, and Slack's composure there, it's where he scores the try. This angled oblique running by Campese throws the Americans off, and it's there that he could have come back inside Higgins, but unselfishly goes to Slack, who really has still got some work. This Gary Hine is a very strong footballer, and there he nearly loses his scone. Bang, try.
So Australia scoring 3 tries in the first half so far. 1 penalty try. Also 1 to Brian Smith, and that try, of course, to Andrew Slack. Now LYNAGH with a conversion attempt. LYNAGH has kicked 3 from 3 so far. His last kick was from the touchline on this grandstand side. This would be a little bit easier for him. It's 5 metres in from touch on the quarter line. LYNAGH looks pretty good. Through again, 4 from 4 for Michael LYNAGH. And Australia now lead by 21 points to 3. 4 minutes left in the first half.
Very unforgiving with the boot, Michael LYNAGH, when he's on his day. So that his points just keep ticking over.
Ray Nelson from the halfway line, restarting. LYNAGH. Running it. Stepping superbly, LYNAGH. Links with his forwards. There's Tyneman. Smith to LYNAGH. Papworth. There's Campese. Good hands out to Leeds. Leeds in space, but quickly got gap closing. Nelson back on the loose ball. Almost to halfway.
Andrew Leeds that time maybe could have done a little more with that ball. He was carrying it in 2 hands. He didn't want to throw it too loose for the Americans to swoop on, but it rolled forward. That sort of stopped the momentum there for Australia.
Free kick to Australia. And LYNAGH look for touch, I think, on the far side. And then about 3 minutes to go before half-time. Australia looking for another try. Not finding touch. Nelson takes it well. Not much angle to work with there. And, inside the American quarter.
This is the area in which the Americans are having trouble. The set plays, line out and scrum.
LYNAGH.
They're great.
There's Slack. Back to Cody. Miller's there linking with him. Coker. Back to Campbell, his partner. Coker again. Loose pass picked up by Halu. Halu in open territory. Pass back inside to Vizard. He picks up. Out to Saunders. He's got Halu outside. Intercepted though by LYNAGH. That would have been a try if Halu had taken it, as he had another man outside. So bad luck for the Americans, but a fine piece of play by Michael LYNAGH, standing in between the 2 American players and intercepting.
What great counter-attack here. Coker goes himself and then throws a shocker at the feet of Michael LYNAGH. And Halu runs into space and is unable to pick up the support.
There's Cody, number 6 for Australia. Smith, Lawton on the short side. Setting up second phase play, Australia. Now they run along the backs. Papworth, Leeds, Campese, Burke, Matt Burke racing along the touchline. Looks back inside for support. Burke still going. Taken by Saunders, though. Saunders finds some room in front of him. Goes for a run. Johnson up towards halfway. The Americans go. American ball again. Saunders falls on the loose ball. Penalty to the Eagles. And a very clever piece of play from the halfback.
Well, Peter, if this is the American second string side, they've replaced 9 from last week against Japan. Aren't they doing it well? They've got 2 of their best players off the field in the halfback and the second rower, and they're not just content to scrounge for the sideline. They're running it back at the Wallabies and doing it very well.
Horton not finding touch. Leeds inside his quarter. Drives play back. Good kick from Andrew Leeds. We find touch. Nelson. Tiptoeing along the touchline, but staying in play. Cody takes it strongly on halfway. Smith. Tyneman. Straight ahead. Penalty goes to Australia, lying over the ball. Right on half-time. And marched a further 10 metres. Smith knocked it on.
Well, he knocked it back, but Mr. Anderson, he didn't see what went on and was quite happy to call it time.
So at half-time, Australia leading the USA by 21 points to 3. For Australia, a penalty try, also tries to Smith and Slack. LYNAGH 3 goals, a penalty goal to the USA, a penalty goal to Ray Nelson. The line-outs to Australia by 9-6. The penalty.
Well, just leaving the coverage there at Ballymore, Brisbane for a few moments for a little chat here in the studio. Graham Williams and Graham Thorne joining me. Well, Australia don't look like world champions at the moment, Graham Williams.
Well, I think Alan Jones will be a little bit worried at the moment because the Australian forwards are really not getting in and setting up a good platform for their backs to I think they've only scored a couple of tries and one penalty try. I feel sure that he'd be wanting a bit greater commitment up front.
They're fringing too much, the Aussie forwards, aren't they? They're going for glory.
I think, you know, people should watch the second half where guys like Steve Tyman there really just going round over the top, hands in the racks, and I think that if we get down to an Australia-New Zealand final, it's going to be pretty hot work in there.
The floodgates are starting to open. There's no doubt that Australia will win probably get to 60 in the second half, but at the moment they're not playing that well. As I say, scrappy, fringing.
Graham, we talked before, Graham Thorne, we talked before about David Campese, and we saw one glorious setup there, but where's the sidestep gone?
I don't know. He's now kicking over the top and chasing, which is the sort of mark of a man who's lost his confidence. That try that he gave to Andrew Slack, I'm sure that 3 years ago he would have just gone cut off the left foot right between the posts, no problem. Now he's so worried that what the press are going to say, or Alan Jones is going to say, that he's not doing it. He's doing the safety first things all the time and losing the brilliance.
Well, we've talked about Australia, Graham Williams, the United States. There have been some pretty encouraging movements there at times, back movement.
Yes, they're showing that they're out there to compete, but I have to wonder about the first half, about the hands in the racks. You know, I think there's 2 broken wrists or sore fingers have gone off over there, so there must be a little bit of an attack going on there in the racks. But I think technically they're quite good, but just the lack of expertise on a lot of the finer points, and they're all committed to getting in and really enjoying it.
Any doubts about that penalty try?
Well, to me, I think there is, because as the Australian commentator said, that it was sheer weight that put the scrum down, and one wonders if the attacking sides will be able to pull a little bit of a ploy for a penalty try in the future, when if you don't think you're going to quite make it on the push, that you actually take the scrum down, and I think you'll get a surefire 6 points.
I think there's been a few hard words said on at the half-time break by Andrew Slack and his lads. They know they're not playing that well. America are giving it their best shot continually. They've got a problem, Philip, because they've lost 2 men already, and they can't replace any more under Test match rules.
So you'd expect a fairly big score by the end of this half, Graham?
Well, I think the Australians really should come on to their game, but the Americans have shown, I think it was in the Japanese game, that they can hold on when they really have to, and if they can get a few breaks, Australia's starting to throw the ball everywhere at times there, and if they can put a lot of pressure on the Australian players, they could come up with a few tries.
They're not getting the ball, that's the trouble, they're not getting the ball.
Graham Williams, Graham Thorne with their thoughts as half-time is just about over, and we'll have a start in the second half very shortly indeed. We'll be rejoining Ballymore in a moment.
Rugby World Cup action continues with live coverage presented in association with National Mutual.
So Australia leading by 21 points to 3. 3 tries to 0 in the first half. Slight delay, just waiting for
American bench. George Betzler at the back there with tons of encouragement. He's the assistant manager.
certainly enjoying their tour down under. Ed Burlingham at the front there, the American tour captain.
Next to him on his on our right-hand side, that's Jeff Lambert. He's the tour manager. Made a lot of friends here in Brisbane, the Americans. They've played good football, and off the field they've been very, very approachable for the media. They know what it's all about.
Referee Brian Anderson blows the whistle for the start of the second half. Australia running with a slight breeze in this half. And immediately Horton finds touch over the quarter line. Lawton throws in. Knocked down Tyman, has it picked up beautifully by Saunders. Straight through goes Lambert. Vizard wrapped up strongly by Cody. Chipped through by Horton. Taken well by Miller though, covering well. But runs straight into Paoli, the front rower. On halfway, penalty Australia. The Australian penalties now 7-4. So
this must be frustrating for the Americans. Peter, they're I think the pressure is right on them, and when they see that they've got that ball secured, they're just sort of erring a little bit in fouling, and the penalty count is just gradually mounting against them. It's just when they've got that pressure on, they should just leave that ball alone and maintain the pressure on the Australians rather than let them off the hook.
Paola, the American captain, okay, and LYNAGH driving play into the American quarter. In fact, only 10 metres out from the American goal line. LYNAGH really has found his touch today with his kicking.
Well, this is the perfect opportunity for Australia if they can win the ball from the line out. The two back lines with 20 metres or more between them, it gives the Australians time to get angled and also to move that ball wide.
Close to the American goal line. Who's through? Could be a try, is it? Double movement, says the referee. Just pick up the Australian on the bottom of that.
Tom Lawton, I think, at the front of the line out.
Yes, crawling along the ground. Referee ruling a double movement.
Brian Anderson in perfect position to judge that. He went to the front of the line out and was the closest man to the ball. Good refereeing.
HORTON finds touch. A good kick from the 5/8.
Look at the positioning here of Brian Anderson. Now, we've seen some controversial decisions by the referees, and they've copped a little bit of flack. But Anderson here in perfect position. There, Lawton grounded short of the line and rolled over and had another dab.
Smith to LYNAGH. Slack. Burke on the fly. Burke's going straight through. Over the quarter line. Out it goes to Andrew Leeds. And Andrew Leeds will score. A fine Australian try. Burke making the bus up the centre. And well finished off by Andrew Leeds. Outpacing the cover defence. Australia leads by 25 points to 3.
Well, that time the line in the back line perfect. Slack handing on. Matthew Burke hit that line flat out. He could have been a touch close to offside, but he knew one way to go, and that was forward. Pin the ears back. Leeds in support. He nearly gets picked up. This American defence is just not giving up. It forces Leeds to go right, and he'll see that corner post coming up right there in the corner. Burke working the ball wide to the support. Got the call from Leeds. A lovely pass as he was crunched in the tackle. And look here again, Gary Hine. He was the one that pressured Slack out wide, and there forcing Andrew Leeds wide out near the corner post.
LYNAGH from the quarter line, about 3 metres in from touch. Hits it well, but out to the right, is it? Yes, just out to the right. Score remains Australia 25, United States 3. Rod Mays showing a bit of disappointment there. No doubt he would have liked to have held Australia a little longer in this second half. HORTON's kick not going the 10 metres. Back to halfway, says referee Brian Anderson.
Take some discipline from the on-field captain, Fred Powley, to make sure the boys hang in there together. They've played very well. They've competed and at every phase of play with the Wallabies.
Smith to Slack. Leads out there. Over halfway, kicking through for Campese. Race the ball. He's going to get there first. Campese, is it? No! Just knocks it on. Wasn't a bad bounce, but just didn't quite bounce high enough for Campese on the fly. Would have been a certain try.
Good football from Australia. Lovely kick. Just lobbing at the feet of the knees of David Campese.
Screwed round by Australia. Driving it towards the touchline. Over the touchline it goes.
Good pressure from the Australian scrum. Forced to a line out. Australia's put in.
Taken well there by Vizard.
American backs dangerously close to offside here.
HORTON. Hurried left foot kick. Only 10 metres out now from the goal line.
Here's a line out. Just watch the the positioning of the American backs. Roy Hellu out wide. They must stay that 10 metres. They advance forward before the ball leaves the line out. They're offside.
Norton, again, trying to burrow his way through. Good ball, Smith to LYNAGH. Out it goes to Slack. Slack, Burke losing it. Good tackle there by the Americans. LYNAGH keeping the ball alive. Slack, but playing the knock-on. And 2 arms in slings for the Americans. No luck at all in the first half. Bill Shiflett and also Dave Dickson. HORTON. Driving play outside the quarter by about a metre. Australia leading by 25 points to 3. Again, the American backs up very shallow. Saunders. That's a good kick from the halfback. Over halfway by almost 10 metres.
Well, this will be a good chance to judge the how close the American backs are. There's a line to the right of the Australian scrum that's 10 metres, and there's no way in the world that Roy Hellu, number 13 in the backs here, is 10 metres from that line.
Well offside there. With a touch. Brian Anderson not looking at the alignment of the American backs just that time. Let's see if he spots them this time.
A little better this time.
They're ball in the line out though. Fallen on by Finkel. Vinnick. Not a good kick, straight up. Picked up though by Finkel. Almost through, but that wasn't Finkel. In fact, it was Vinnick inside centre. Stockley built. Second test match for the Eagles today from Hartford, Connecticut. Strong defender. Looks like
referee Fred Powley, I think. The referee having a look at the back of his head. He must have a cut into the back of his head.
From Denver, Colorado, Fred Powley. 7th test for the Eagles today. One of the most experienced players in this team. American players don't get as much opportunity to play internationals as the Australian side or the All Blacks. We get 1 or 2 internationals a year. Of course, the annual clash against Canada, the real high point of the year for the Eagles. Real grudge match. Canada has got on top the last couple of years. Powley getting attention to the back of his head.
There's some of the big contingent of the Americans, one of which is Dennis Jablonski from New York, who the former Eagles fullback is over here with his wife. There's been a lot of support from the States for the team here today.
There was a bit of shepherding there from Brian Smith. Obstruction, and so what's HORTON going to do here? Maybe the up and under might be the go, the Gary Owen. That's what he's doing. Leeds waits. Takes it beautifully, Andrew Leeds. Ball goes loose. Smith picks up. Finally, LYNAGH clears and finds touch 10 metres out from the quarter line. I'm sure the New Zealand viewers who are watching now remember Andrew Leeds in the 3rd test in the Bledisloe Cup recital last year, where he took some enormously courageous takes in that match. And showing that same sort of form again today.
Check. Purple 6. 2, 3.
Won by the Americans. Penalty to Australia again.
Obstruction, Mr. Anderson calling, holding the player back. Hence the penalty.
Gary Lambert has certainly added some height and power to this American forward performance in the second half. LYNAGH, driving play upfield again. Won't find touch though. Gary Hine takes it well. Back to Nelson. Right footer. Makes no mistake, 5 metres from halfway.
John Dedrick, the Executive Director of the Australian Rugby Union there.
Well, the dynamic forces in Australian rugby.
Yes, of course. And at the helm for some time now.
Dave Horton. Leads. Again, no mistake. Cool work back to Campese, who's caught. Oh, Americans just botching that there. Off the foot, though. Campese finding a left footer. Won't find touch. Well taken by Nelson. Gets round Burke. Good play from the fullback. Loose pass. Tyneman there for Australia. On the quarter line. Whistle goes. Australia's ball in. Held by Tyler at the back. Smith to LYNAGH. There's Papworth running it. Leads it at pace. Slack. Pass going forward, though, says referee Brian Anderson. (25-3), Australia has scored 4 tries to 0. One of those a penalty try in the first half. Zard, Saunders, chipping ahead. Good kick, leads across. Who's there first? Taken by Higgins. Is he over? Very close to the goal line. That was a good piece of work by Kevin Higgins, who's by far and away, I think, the most impressive of the American backs.
I'd love to have seen him playing somewhere closer into the action, maybe inside centre. They put him on the wing, obviously, to contain Campese or Matthew Burke. He's done a good job. But G's a competitor.
This time the Americans apply the pressure. They've lost the ball, though. They've taken it a fraction too far. Lambert is held up, only a metre short. Saunders, Horton, cut-out pass. Neal, out to Nelson. Nelson going for the corner, and Nelson will score! That's a great American try. They deserve that. Fine piece of work. Running the ball wide, getting around the defence and scoring.
And getting a great hand from the crowd here. Not because it's the underdog scoring, but because it was great rugby. The forwards had the control, the backs had the skill. The ball worked wide, Nelson getting outside David Campese. He nearly loses it one-handed over the line here, but there's nothing denying them today, the Americans. They played well, they deserved this try a lot longer before. Shifted the ball along, and it was Nelson who's put in a big effort in their couple of games over the line to score a delightful try. Crowd very happy with that.
Nelson trying to convert his own try. Taking plenty of time. Hits it. It's there. 25-9, Australia leading. Ron Mays is ecstatic. 15 gone in the second half.
Now they've put it back to the Australians. I'm sure they're up to the task, but it will take composure, not just willy-nilly running.
LYNAGH. Saunders. Was it off the shoulder? Yes, it was, says the referee. Finding touch outside the quarter line. Well won by Bill Campbell in the centre. And a penalty to Australia again. The Americans giving away silly penalties on the quarter line.
Not necessary, they're just trying to seal that ball off.
LYNAGH, Papworth. There's Campese flying through. Campese back inside to Burke, who loses it. Misunderstanding there, I think. Campese always is going to pass it back inside to Burke, but Burke wasn't quite ready for it.
Very difficult when somebody's coming at that pace, at that angle.
Smith. There's support from Cody. Second phase ball now for the Australians. Smith. Papworth, the jink. Jinking again, Papworth. Going himself, Papworth will score a brilliant try. Superb stepping from the inside centre. Brilliant stuff from Papworth. And Australian lead by 29 points to 9.
Well, you'd have needed to have been an octopus to get a hand on this guy. Look at this step. Bang, bang. Hellu had no idea where he was going. It was bigger than any that I've seen. A great step. American not able to do one thing about that try. A beautiful individual effort. Watch it this way. There's one. Watch this one on Hellu. Hellu just doesn't know where he's going. Bang around Ray Nelson. The line wide open and the big coveted defender not able to get there. Good individual try.
Brett Papworth at his best. Haven't seen too much of that so far this season, but certainly saw it then. It's Bill Campbell, number 5, getting some treatment. He's okay. Maybe that American try has stung the Australian players into action. Liner from inside the quarter. That's 16 in from touch. Michael Liner so far 9 points for today's game. Test total now of 220 points. This might be 223, is it? It is. Australia reaches 31. USA 9. Jones must be feeling a little more pleased after that try. 5 tries scored by the Australians so far, with so many records being broken in this World Cup. The record most number of tries scored by Australia in a test match, 9 against the USA in 83 and Canada in 85. Whistler's gone for a knock-on. Smith to Liner. Go past to Campese, the good step. And almost straight through Campese, still going. Out it comes to Leeds. Leeds waits for support. There's Slack. Ball goes loose. Berg goes himself. Picked up by Miller. Smith. Lord on the short side again. Trying to commit the American players. There it is. Smith. Cody now. Smith. Liner. Papworth. Papworth. Papworth almost through again. Lawton. Quick hands to Burt. Losing it forward though. Australia didn't go all that far forward there, but they kept the ball alive.
You're so right. That flat line of defence by the Americans forcing the Australians to run sideways. They had the ball, they moved it, but they weren't going forward. And that pass from Lawton going astray.
And the trusty boot of Dave Horton again finding touch. Back to the quarter line. Quick line out throw in. Lambert wins well. It's taken away by Swartz. There's Vizard. Good forward play from the Americans. Picked up finally by Butchhouse, the front rower. Saunders. Kicked well away by Horton behind Campese's a good kick. Not bouncing the right way though, Campese. Leads, casual. Campese. Running to the left again. Still going Campese. Now Smith has it. Timon. Goes himself, Smith. Chipping ahead for Matt Burke. Ray Nelson across and cover, as is Higgins. But the American defence looking tired now, hanging off the Australians, and Campese taking full advantage of that.
Why wouldn't you be tired? End-to-end football. This is the stuff that brings them back. Great position here for Australia. The Americans giving everything. The Australians again back to them.
Pat Johnson waiting for the call, settling the forwards down. Lambert, good kick, big kick, leads, takes it coolly though. He's played well today for Australia. Campese, what's he going to do? LYNAGH, well, it's like basketball at the moment. Up to halfway, Miller powering his way through. Out to Burke, losing it forward again. Can't blame Burke then though, wasn't the greatest of passes.
That last pass going astray for the Australians. They should be consolidating it. Miller that time looking wide. No reason for that pass. He was strong in the tackle.
Again, McIntyre's going out in sympathy with Jeff Miller's boot.
There Miller tries to get, he had support there from Coker and tries for the Hail Mary, the slam dunk out wide to Matthew Burke.
Jeff Miller's got his boot back on now, so I think Andy McIntyre may have recovered, or may recover. So he's taping his left ankle.
I'm sure all the New Zealand viewers, Peter, would be interested to see how Australia have progressed with the All Blacks casting all before them with very fluent displays.
Good drive, the Australian forwards wing against the head. LYNAGH, Papworth, the second goes to Juggles. Waits to set up. Miller's there again first. Untidy work there from Tyneman. Got the boot to the ball, kicking it forward. Whistle's gone. Well, what was that for? Knock on. Midway through this second half, Australia leading by 31 points to 9. Tyneman to Smith. Kicking through for Burke. Higgins is there. The ball beats them both in a touch. 10 metres out from the American goal line. That's good controlled play from Brian Smith, the halfback. He certainly has found a bit more confidence in this second half. Started a bit scratchily, but has found his mark much more in the second stanza. Saunders juggling it backwards. Scrum, only about 5 metres out. And a free kick to Australia now. Let's see what they do here. Smith. Coker. Miller takes it in well. Lillicrap back to Smith. Lawton stepping. Had 4 men outside, didn't give the ball, and a penalty goes to America. A try going begging there.
An absolute shocker. Bungled Tommy Lawton. Very difficult when a hooker gets the ball to move it on fluently, but he should. He's a class player, but the option wasn't to go on your own, it was to use the support outside.
Off the side of a boot from Dave Horton. There's still 4 players outside there and 1 eagle. And 1 of 4 of those Australians could have scored it. Tommy Lawton went himself and was caught. Smith, taken away by Lambert. He's a good footballer, Lambert. Now it goes on to Swartz. Backing up well there is Finkel. Vizard now over halfway. Good American forward play. On to Horton. Halu. Back to Vinnick. Halu again. Good continuity from the Americans. Plays on halfway. Looks like Leeds has it for Australia. Australia's ball well won. LYNAGH, Tyneman, Slack. Loose pass picked up by Smith. Running it the other way. Papworth. He's got Campese outside. Papworth going straight ahead. Up towards the court line goes Papworth. Still going Papworth. Out to Campese. And Campese scores a try. His first try of the game. And a fine piece of work again by Brett Papworth. Australia now leading by 35 points to 9.
Really came from nothing this. Papworth created the play himself. Worked the beautiful step again and got into open space. And once into space, Halu here behind him was the trouble. Gary Hine, who the winger who's done a great job all day, took the man. He was committed to take the man with the ball inside the 22, leaving Campese unmarked.
So Campese now...
Look at this step again. Bang off that left foot. And away he goes at pace. Halu here misjudged the speed at which he was going, and Papworth has gone straight past him. Hine here, beautiful winger play, covered Campese until the last minute, then went inside for the man carrying the ball, and Campese did the rest.
LYNAGH from the quarter line. Trying to convert Australia's 6th try. Out to the left. So Campese now only 1 try away from the record set by the Scot Ian Smith, who scored 24 tries in test matches between 1924 and 1933. Campese has scored now 23 tries in this, his 29th test. So history could be made here this afternoon if Campese can score 1 more try, or 2 more tries, 1 more try to equal the record. I think this game has been good for some of the Australian backs at getting their confidence back. Papworth and Campese have been a bit scratchy so far this season. But in this game, they've run the ball well. They certainly showed plenty of skills. Brian Vizard getting some water to help him on his way.
Played well against Japan. Vizard, and also the support play today. The handling skills of the Americans improved dramatically in the last couple of years.
HORTON, deep kick. Again knocked on, this time by Tyneman. Referee hasn't seen it, I don't think. Australian forwards continue to push the ball forward. Miller. Ball caught high. That was Lambert. Smith. LYNAGH, loose pass from Smith, lazy play. Papworth again stepping. Cody setting up. This was gone.
Smith, I think, a bit nervous today. In front of his home crowd. Trying to force the pace with the pass, and very uncharacteristic low passes.
Held by Tyneman. Smith gets it now. Back to Tyneman. There's LYNAGH in support. Over halfway. Miller. Smith. Back to his forwards. Lawton. LYNAGH. Round the corner pass to Papworth.
Yes.
Offside finally.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. It has been a while coming, unfortunately. Americans, they've cribbed.
Slack the long pass to Campese. Campese stepping his way through. Back to LYNAGH. LYNAGH close to the goal line. Who's there first? Halu first there for the Americans. Australia want this ball. Nelson clears well. Still inside the American quarter. David Campese almost equaling that test scoring record.
Still the American defence holds up. They've done a marvellous job. Front rowers, back rowers, the lot in this. Super work.
Offside there in the line out. No doubt about that. Smith. Taps again. Coker. Sets it up well. Working the short side. Tyneman. Trying to struggle his way towards the goal line. Smith. He goes short side again. Cody. Close, and Cody races straight through, and Cody will score almost underneath the posts. Weak defence there from the Americans. They've given everything they can, but just tiring a little bit now. Australia now leads by 39 points to 9.
Well, unfortunately for the Americans, that came from broken play. Wasn't good work by the Australians. They didn't commit all the Americans, all the Eagles to that tap move of theirs, and it was only the strength of this fellow Cody. He's got pace, he's got strength. Look at him pull out of this tackle of HORTON and go over underneath the post. Well-deserved try, David Cody.
LYNAGH right in front. LYNAGH now has kicked 6 from 8. and Australia 41 points to 9 they lead.
Smith here under pressure. He goes the wrong side. He has no support. But there's Cody, who dropped back 7-a-side style to take that backwards pass. And look at him weave a little bit of magic of his own, the big fella. Crashes over strongly here. He's not going to let this one get away from him.
Australia, Chris, using the short side a lot today, haven't they?
Yeah, strangely, they've used it when there isn't support on the short side. Smith's gone 2 or 3 times in the last 10 minutes or so, and the support hasn't been that side. So
Cody knocks it back. LYNAGH. Plenty of space out here. Campese. It's hard to read where he's going to go. The back's all came this side. Campese goes the other side. Gary Hine. Strange looking kick. Tyner knocks it back. Andy McIntyre. Been dominant in the tight today. Vinnick pushing away from a couple. Saunders. Chipped ahead by HORTON. There's Burke. Round 1, caught by Nelson. Into touch. The Americans certainly not giving up. They're giving their all right to the end. We've got 11 minutes of play left in this match. Can Australia reach 50? Down the back. Riddell. Bit of juggling there. Saunders. HORTON. Halu. Out to Gary Hine. Back inside to Nelson. Going through. Good pass. Halu takes it well. The ball going forward. But again, the combination there from the Americans. Good, hard, straight running. And whenever Ray Nelson injects himself in the back line, the Australian defence in trouble.
Gary Hine working this ball beautifully here. You watch the wide out pass to him, probably marginally forward, but he knows where to go, the big fella.
Smith. Bit hesitant. Penalty to Australia. Offside there. Smith still a bit hesitant today. Hasn't had to pick the option straight away. He's had to think about it.
I think Andrew's Flack calling for that ball quickly.
Cody. All the American backs offside. McIntyre to Lawton, his front row partner, Smith. This time he decides to put the ball out. He doesn't find touch though. Hine takes it well. Hine, strange style of kicking, throws the ball up in the air, then meets it on the way down. Hine, almost through. Losing the ball forward though. Got a good bounce.
Australian backs finding it very difficult to penetrate the flat standing centres of the Americans. Mr. Anderson hasn't spent much time looking over his shoulder. And
I think flat's been kind, Chris. I think they're at an angle towards the Australian back line.
And there's again Gary Hine contributing a nice big high kick. He's put all sorts of pressure on today. He's done all his work. There he goes, contests the ball in the air, and the ball just dribbling forward off his hands, but he was away.
Still some treatment on the far side. Gary Hine getting the water bottle. Well, I've really enjoyed this game, Chris. It's plenty of entertainment.
10 minutes to go, 41 points to 9 the score, and no one leaving the ground. It's, you know, a great compliment to America, the way that they've really hooked into it today, and everyone here at Ballymore certainly appreciated it.
Smith. One against the head by the Americans. Drop it goal by HORTON. Looks pretty good, is it? It's there! Dave HORTON will be the pride of Massachusetts with that kick. Cool as you like. Against the head, the Americans win it. And a three-pointer. 41 points to 12. LYNAGH, the quick restart. Taken by Higgins. HORTON. Up the line he goes. And he finds touch.
This is a classic example of what to do with a ball won at the tight head. Super ball by Hooker Johnson. Great kick by HORTON.
Australia has certainly been the better side. They've played well in patches, but full marks to the Americans. They don't deserve to lose really by 41 to 12.
Too right.
And interesting to watch them against England, their final match in the qualifying round. Could be a very interesting match with the Americans at full strength. Free kick at time. Saunders not placing the ball in the centre of the tunnel. Liner to Gary Owen again. That's a good one too. Pinpoint. Lambert takes it well, calls the mark. It's awarded. Well, Gary Lambert, I think, is a class forward. Very powerful, does everything right. A very useful play for the Americans. And if the Americans can get their top side on the paddock for the game against England, it'll be a very interesting match. Liner, Papworth, Campese at speed. Smith, jinking around. Swarming American defence though.
Somebody injured on the ground there. Michael Liner possibly. No, Jeff Miller.
Jeff Miller it is. Knee looks like, the right knee.
Been troubled with a back injury that's kept him out of almost all football since the seven-a-side tournament. Been missing in the Queensland team.
Well, only 5 minutes to go now. Australia leading by 41-12. Just looking at future Australian matches, do you think Coach Alan Jones may make some changes?
Peter, he's got a real quandary. I don't think the players have made as fluent an adjustment today as they thought they might. I think they tried to be disciplined. They hoped that the fluency would come in their game, and there's only been brief shows of it.
And it goes along the line to Papworth. That's Liner taking the run-around pass. Slack. Out it goes to Tyneman now. There's Burke. Burke, plenty of space in front of him. Picking up pace is Burke. Burke almost through. Round to Tyneman. Tyneman, will he score? No! Lose the ball. Again, tremendous cover defence from Gary Hine. The winger coming across. Tyneman, that was a solid knock. Interesting to see that one again. That was a tremendous hit.
Tyneman here lines himself up for him. Look at Gary Hunt through there, in at the legs, just the body and all. That's tremendous blocking, line blocking stuff. Look at Hine, he's flying across, and look at him go for the thighs with the shoulder charge. It was low, it was hard, it was terrific.
Gary Hine, you can tell his gridiron background with that sort of tackle. On the defensive line.
Steve Tyneman will have a nice cork thigh out of that. Good play by the big number 8. He went hard for the line, as hard as he possibly could. It was only Hine going low that did the damage.
The ice pack will be on that shortly. Horton. Just going across the line. In a touch from Saunders. Smith to Liner. Liner going straight through. Liner almost there. Ball going forward. Halu takes it away. Halu hit high and late by Coker. There'll be a few stern words from Brian Anderson for that tackle. Here it is. Watch it, Halu.
Running wide, the ball had clearly gone and then comes in late with the charge. Definitely late. That's the sort of stuff that we'd like to see out of rugby, when you've relaxed having made the play and get taken out high by a pretty big player. It's just not on.
Roy Halu getting still some more treatment. That would have shaken a few cobwebs out. Taylor back on his feet. Now Michael LYNAGH getting some treatment for looks like an injured ankle. Well, 5 minutes to go in the game. Just looking at some of the statistics, line-outs to Australia 16-13. The penalties to Australia by 13-7. Rucks and mauls to Australia by 19-10. So Australia certainly has had all possession. Look, tap move here. HORTON leads again. Safe under pressure, Andrew leads. Tyneman, there's Cody as well. A rolling ball here, they can't get very far. Australia put in. 3 minutes to go. This World Cup certainly a great benefit for teams like the United States, learning enormously from the experience. LYNAGH, Papworth, out to Burke, Matt Burke, over halfway to Campese. Good tackle by Halu. Penalty goes to Australia again. The Americans giving away silly penalties. Smith. Papworth, or a sack the long pass, out to Burke. There's Leeds. Back inside, it goes to Coker. Coker finds McIntyre, the front rower, enjoying himself out in the backs. Slack to Burke. Smith. There's Miller. Miller wrapped up by Swartz. Smith. Chips ahead. Nelson across their covering. Takes it well on the first bounce and finds touch. American coach Ron Mays would be well pleased with this effort today. Australia has scored 7 tries, but the Americans have contested the whole way. Swartz loses the ball forward. Vizard falls on it. Playing the knock on. Ryan Anderson certainly not letting anything slip by him. 41-12, Australia leading. Looks like that's Kevin Swartz. In fact, Swartz deals with foreign military sales for the US Air Force, so with the controversy in America the last few months, maybe we've had a fairly hectic time. Looks like also he's got a hand injury. I don't think he'll leave the field. But only a minute or so to go. Let's just have a look at the try scorers for Australia. Might just wait. Looks like the player is getting up now, Kevin Swartz. Smith feeds. LYNAGH. Slack. And it goes to Campese. There's Papworth. Quick hands to Leeds. Good play from the Australians. Leeds still going. Crashing his way back inside. Picked up by Burke, close to the goal line. American cover still strong. Saunders picks up, then loses it. And a penalty goes to the United States. Relieve pressure for them. Let's see if they can hold the Australian score at 41. Saunders puts the ball down. Taking plenty of time here. No great hurry. And Halu is injured on out towards the goalposts. Brian Anderson says, let's have a replacement. Halu's not as keen. The American runner coming on. No, Halu says, I'm okay. The runner would have been impressed by that. Some of the crowd starting to leave now, but they've really been entertained this afternoon here at Ballymore. Another good kick from Dave HORTON. He's done that all day. good to see the Americans have developed so much the last few years. Another penalty to Australia. Certainly come thick and fast. Smith take the tap. Liner. He goes to Slack. There's Cody standing the tackle. Coker. Slack, the long pass out to Leeds. Picked up and dumped. McIntyre again there. Smith. Liner. Papworth. Jinks once. Gets away from Horton for a second, but Horton comes again. Back goes to Leeds. Leeds straight through, and Leeds will score. Andrew Leeds, second try. Simple try. The fence holding off. And Australia now leading by 45 points to 12. Right on full time. Kick to come from Liner. There you can see Leeds. Seeing a gap up the centre he goes. Halu can't get near him. Saunders comes across, but Leeds too quick. And scores adjacent to the uprights. Liner 6 from 8 so far. Should make this certainly 7 from 9. And puts it through, and there's full time. Australia defeating the United States by 47 points to 12.
So Australia